book, but we can start since we're right here. This is a picture of the back of the Taj Mahal. Okay, so in India, the Taj Mahal, as you know, is this wonderful, elegant, beautiful thing. I mean, it's amazing to see it live. It's got beautiful water out in front of it, and it just looks like this beautiful cake, wedding cake or something. It's just elegant, elegant. In the back, there's kind of these tidal pools, and there's people that take boat rides. It's kind of a tourist thing to do for even the local people from India. And there's usually a boatman, you see, and then a guide in the front, and then a couple, because the Taj Mahal was a memorial for a man who he lost his wife, and that's kind of a tomb for her. And so it's all about love, and it's a very charismatic place. It's a beautiful place. You have to take your shoes off to go into the Taj Mahal, and there's a zillion shoes. So my first thought was, are my shoes going to be here? Because I have to be all through India. But and they were, so that's kind of cool. And I had actually made this with one of the photographs, and I had 2 photographs, and I was scanning them. And when I scanned them on the computer, they came out like this. And I thought, well, this is so cool. It's like a memory of the memory of a memory. So, and the thing that I thought would tell you that it was the Taj Mahal was the bottom angle and the little handle notch that's on top of the railing, because all of that is inlay. All of the Taj Mahal has this beautiful, wonderful inlay. And if you go, you'll see craftspeople doing the inlays and showing you how to do it, very meticulously filing, cutting, and laying it in, and all of that. So that's a picture of the Taj Mahal. And it's using a lot of the crayons and paint underneath, and then I may paint on top of it. So there are these Caran d'Ache water-soluble crayons, so you can actually wet them and paint on top and wash them off and do all sorts of fun things. So, yeah. So now, should we get up and do our walkabout? Okay. Now, Cheryl, you can speak up if you think I'm going too long. Okay. But okay, I don't know how. Oh my God. Well, I don't want it to be. I want it to be exciting. So, okay. So you don't need your chair now. You're gonna enjoy Innocent Adventure. You're gonna take a little safari with me over here. We'll start at the beginning of the show, but you can see it in any way you want. So I don't know, maybe we can turn the lights on if you guys want to, but there's plenty of light in here. That's good. Okay. All right, so if you're at the beginning of the show, yeah, and save your questions too, because I love to answer the questions. Okay, so is everybody around? Everybody here? Okay, come. Essentially, the book for the show is kind of like encapsulates the book, the show, but it wasn't done during the pieces. It was done at the end. Okay, so that's kind of fun. And essentially, what it is, and it's got things you can read, but essentially, it is a picture book of blow-ups of the images that you see here in the show. Okay, so there are 14 images that are chronicling basically an elephant ride that I took. Okay, so a lot of tourists, when you go into India, this was the last trip we took to go all the way up to Haridwar and Rishikesh, the mouth of the Ganges. And so it was kind of a mystical trip, and you go on a lot of trams, and you go up and many, many temples. And that was the kind of show. But we stopped while we were going to ride on an elephant. And I think in the 20 years after I've been in India, so it's been at least 20 years, if not more, I remembered this ride on the elephant to be sort of this experience that was like getting up on the elephant, which you actually got on the trunk with your foot and held the things. I think we could still do it now. And the elephant would raise the trunk, and you would be up on top of the elephant, and then you would turn around, and you would be sitting on a big bed that the driver would saddle the elephant with. And so there were 3 of us and the driver. So that's about a two person bed, a double bed, right on top of this elephant. And the elephant was 50. I was also 50. And she was beautiful and wonderful and seemed very peaceful with this whole thing. And as she went, she kind of took this, the driver took this poker and kind of poked her. But she didn't seem to be upset, but she would just eat trees as she went, like whole trees, you know, big branches, and just eat them. And that's how she got through the forest. So we didn't have any paths or anything. We just went through the forest. And we saw deer. So that is really basically the story. We were supposed to see tigers. We had to get up very early. So that was the story, and that was the memory. But it was a new view. It was a different view, and it was like feeling like you were on top of a bulldozer, but this was what they used to forage through, huge animals to forage through the forest and create anything they wanted to create. So they were like their earthworks. So that was the thing that really impressed me, and I decided that would be something I could work with. So all of these are kind of the stage of saddling the elephant, like you would have a horse here and you would have certain ways you saddle it, and I thought that was very unusual. How can you saddle this elephant and how can you ride on top of it with all the people? So the book is encapsulating this process, and it's in order. And you don't have any pictures. This was actually something my brother, who's an artist, said. I had done all these blow-up images after things were done, and I had left all this for the words, you know, and then I was going to put that in with the computer. And Peter said, you know, why do you do that? Because you don't really need words with this. This is so beautiful, just like that. And I think it gave me like a sense of the true thing about getting things back to the abstraction. It was just very exciting to see that. So I took him up on that, and I just left it. And so here you can read all of the text here in the back. So that was the last piece. Okay, and then here is the, and so the words and the image, just like I said in the movie about me, that is just saying more or less what is here. You actually don't have to read it if you don't want to, because some people love to read, some people don't. And there's more there. And then this is the colophon. So enjoy the book. And I'm not using gloves, but it's good if you use the gloves. It's a clay-coated paper, and it's a large 15 by 19 archival printer. So that's kind of cool. And I did print two. One is cut in half, but it was a lot to make the book. This was a ledger book that usually you can get little ledgers and funny little workbooks for students. And in all these stores, they're very cheap and they're very kind of wrinkly and made very funny, and I thought that was kind of fun. So that actually is the ledger book, but I turned it upside down because I just wanted to see this. So that is the book. So it's enlarged, so the ledger book was probably about like that. So I brought a bunch of those books home. And what I figured would be fun, though, as you look at the images, then I broke down all the pages and repositioned the pages that correspond with the images. So all of those captions in here are in there, and so there's 14 images. So you can enjoy either reading or not reading. So, but I've always found that the visual and the words kind of go together. I like it, but I don't want it to be too much together, right? So that what gives you freedom to go and see whatever. So yes.
You mentioned several times that the coloring you use was like crayon or something. Is that the same thing as what they call new pastel?
These are Caran d'Ache water-based crayons.
Oh,
They have an oil-based variety too, but the Caran d'Ache, Blick has them. You can get a set of like 180, I think. So I have a very big set of those, and you can get them singly also. They're very good for printmaking as well. And actually, let's move to another one, and I'll answer more. Then that way we can keep going, because these are all the stages of the elephant. So I thought that this would be. I didn't want to explain it too much, but you'll see you have your numbers here. Yes, page 6, page 3. That I figure you could look over here for like that. So here you're kind of in another environment. I think these is a great solution for this area to have this fan shape, whatever you call this, spinning top kind of panels, because you can feel like you're in an environment. So what I did, what's interesting is a lot of the scraps, especially the horseshoe crab, because I had to cut them out, okay, I ended up with lots of pieces. And the pieces were beautiful because I would tint them and do all sorts of stuff. So I had all these pieces. You're going to throw those away? No way. So I decided to make new paper out of those papers. Okay, so all of these pieces are actually made out of the paper from the previous show. And it's so much fun to do that. You can try that. I think it would be fun to do as an abstract thing as well. You just take pieces of paper and start gluing them together. And you know, of course, do you want to make a rectangle? I don't know. I mean, I just made shapes, you know what I mean? Because the paper was there in shapes. It wasn't in straight lines. And so I glued them all together. So I had the pieces from the previous show, the ideas of the images and the photos from this new show, the India show. And so I kind of superimposed one thing on top of the other. And it turned out to be really fun because you could stop or start, let some things show through, you know, cover them up, whatever you wanted to do. So the paper was paper I made. And when you're not really making a picture and you're just making a piece of paper, your mind does something completely different, which is really interesting. It makes abstract pictures really easily and really good. They're better than when you try to make it, you know. So oftentimes just going with the found thing is the best. So this is, you know, the process I thought was so interesting. And my friend Sheila and Gap also, they went on the trip. So Gap, actually her husband was an ambassador to India from Amsterdam, and she was very into the workshop, the print workshop that I visited, which was Devraj Dakoji's workshop. So that was me, and then this was Sheila, and I was leaving, and she was resident in India. I was leaving, and Sheila was coming for the next residency, and so I had a show in India, which also had to be boxed up and everything, and brought there, and that was the show about Japan, so that was kind of cool. And so we were the ones riding on the elephant, and here's kind of the bed here, and this is the picture the driver took when he looked up at us, and this is the driver putting these blankets, and everything in India, of course, very old blankets, like they've been there forever, and you know, a special blanket went on the elephant, and then the Sheila, very early in the morning, kind of looking at the elephant, and the elephant was just very calm, very knew what to do. I mean, they seemed to be very nice with the elephant. I don't know, you know, I've heard lots of stories about how elephants are not treated so well or trained. It's a little different, but she seemed very kind and wonderful, and I could get pictures of her so close. And then this is him laying the saddle blanket on, and Sheila kind of warming the elephant, and it was cold in the morning. And this was the saddle before they actually put the big bed on top, and the assistant. So that was kind of cool. And then, you want to come this way a little bit? Yeah.
For those of us that aren't printmakers, so is this going through the printing press, or is this just you painting directly on the paper?
Well, the thing is, since I made the paper, okay, it's a print. That's the printing part. So here you see kind of textures. This is a lot of this water texture behind the horseshoe crab texture. So it is printed, and then it's also painted, and it's also drawn. So usually I'm drawing on top, but I can paint on top of that too. So the print is actually part of the paper, because these drawings themselves did not go through the press, the printing press.
So they're one of a kind. You don't
There's one of a kind, yeah.
colors of each of them.
No, definitely not. No. So they're all uniques, you know. This one's called That Gorgeous Elephant. It was just such a beautiful profile of the elephant. And I think, you know, if you're around the elephant, you feel different than just the image of it. You know, the skin and just everything about it was very, I don't know, just very heartwarming. And, you know, we've all seen elephants in the zoo or whatever, but still, it was exciting. So now can you follow me just a little bit this way?
One more question.
Huh? Sure.
You and the two other gals sitting on that elephant, is that the crayons that you used to do those images? Was that crayons, or what other medium did you use to draw the people?
Crayons.
It's just all crayons.
More or less, yeah, that's the crayons.
Okay.
So it's all the water-based crayons. They're really good. I mean, they're more opaque. There's something nice about being able to crayon them like this, and then
Yes.
also to be able, yeah, I mean, it was, from the photo, but a lot of work just to get it right.
But
The faces.
images that look like photographs, those are done in the solar plate process.
No, there's no solar plates on these,
No?
none.
Okay.
No. So it's just using the photo. And I mean, I feel good about using photos because it's the only way you can quickly document something. How are you going to remember if you're coming home? You can't draw everything. And I think that kind of was in the book. I remember this was the trip to Haridwar and Rishikesh was like the first time I wasn't really teaching workshops or doing that. That was kind of my vacation. We actually rented a car. That was the first time that we rented a car. So that with the three of us and the driver, but that was kind of like just to think and do, and meanwhile I was taking smaller trips, but I was also teaching things too.
So it is a photograph though, right?
No.
So you've just drawn in what
Yeah,
was
I
on
mean,
the photograph.
what I do is I'll take the photo, like you have a snapshot or something, I'll put it in the computer, work it however I want, whatever. And then I'll tile it, which means you can blow it up to whatever size by making 8 by 10 pieces. And then I will pin them up, and then I can trace just the lines. But I just do that for the scale. I mean, I don't have the temperament to keep drawing it freehand again and again, because I really just want it, by the time I'm at that point. So I feel that if I just have a line and then I look at the photos and I go from there. The color, make it up, whatever. Okay? So there's no photo or print in that part of it.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Okay, so come this way now. We can do it. We'll go this way. Now this is part 2. So it's kind of fun. Okay. So this, as you get over here, I think then we'll be able to walk that way. So, actually, we'll have to go this way too. So, but it's kind of nice to really see it, and I can talk to you about it. So this actually is, the next thing is the forest. So that was the saddling part of the elephant. And then we went into the forest. So this just seeing an antler, really seeing nothing. I mean, they had said we'd see tigers, but it wasn't so important. We just sort of saw the forest. And it was, I think, a very old forest. I mean, there was nothing that had been there because it hadn't had anything built on it. So it was a very old forest, which looks a lot like a newer forest. And then here is the trees wrapped around, I call that, because there were these roots and they were wrapped around these tree trunks, and they just looked like they'd been there for a long, long time. And then you can always go back and look at the pictures too. And then we started to see some deer. So these were just some photos of the deer. And so you can see, using other materials. This is printed through the press, though, this from the horseshoe crab images. So it's always kind of nice to have something you're working on, I guess. It's kind of like a story that continues. And then can we squeeze over here? And then these are the final pieces of seeing all the elephants and seeing the elephant families. So these were the wild elephants, and you can see just very back far some elephants. So those are the elephants that lived in the forest. So those were the elephants that were free, that got a chance to be in the forest. And so that was that part. And then we had more panels. So can we go this way?
What part of India are you in for this part?
This is up in Haridwar and Rishikesh, so I don't know exactly where that was, but part up that way.
Okay. Which state?
Which well, it's way up high.
Yeah.
It's up high. You can see Nepal from there. You can see Mount Everest from there.
Gotcha.
Okay, so it's high up. Many trams, and everybody used the Lonely Planets book. I don't know if you guys use that when you travel now, because they do update it. And it's so funny because you'd look around and there'd be somebody else with the Lonely Planet book. And the more ruined it was, the more they were experienced travelers. And so the Lonely Planet kept saying, the trams are okay. Because I remember I said, partway through it, I said, I hope these trams are all right. Because we're just nonchalantly going on these trams. But we're still here today.
You were going through the forest and you met up with these wild elephants.
Well, they're wild.
And how did they react to you guys?
Well, they were way at a distance. Okay. I mean, there are different elephants in different areas. The India elephants are shorter ears. Uh-huh. They're a little bit different than the bigger elephant ears, those more African elephants. So there are elephants, but they were way at the distance, so they were way back. So, and they seemed very happy that they weren't being disturbed by anybody. You know. And so here, then we can go over here. So this is I know it's kind of crazy, but I don't know. I invented I use their spirally thing. And so then these are monoprints. And so I've been teaching this online class through Woodstock School of Art, so you guys could take that along with your classes here. They're usually 4 sessions, and they're an hour. And so we started doing that at Woodstock. I do teach there, but I was teaching workshops, and Kate McLaughlin is fantastic. Usually at all these places, like Cheryl being here, you know, it's so much energy, and it's so wonderful to have people around working on all different classes. And so during COVID, they said, well, we need somebody who's going to do something online. And so I said, well, even though I was in New York City, I only came up there to visit. I said, okay, I'll try it. And she said, well, you're going to have to print by hand. So I thought, oh, sure. You know, I'd never printed by hand before. I mean, well, I had sort of, but, you know, I'm more a press person, know how to print with the presses. And so I figured, well, I should be able to do it. So I started teaching the class. And in doing it, I, of course, had to do things because there's no students there to do things. Usually when I teach, there's all the students do stuff, and I just show them, test. And so I ended up with all these test plates, and I figured, you know, I might as well make art out of these things because otherwise it's just a bunch of pieces of paper. And so I've amassed quite a few of these pieces that are kind of taken from the test plates, and then I'll have a pile of them, and then I'll start to figure out what to do with them. And so it's kind of fun to do that. And so that's what these monotypes are about. So they're the gyroscope, different images. I've been in love with the armadillo. I did a wood block of the armadillo. So I started doing a dry point. The workshop that I'm teaching here is going to be 2 days, where you're going to be using a dry point technique. So you could see the dry point here, the dry point here. You can use carborundum, which will print a sort of gray tone, or collagraphs, so you can see the leaf behind, which is literally a collograph is just a piece of plexi or cardboard where you glue something on it and then you ink that up. And so those are good examples of monotype on top. And these are usually 2 colors. So, you know, you have the monotype and then you have the dry point printed on top. So you can work with a plexi and you can see the image underneath. And so that way you can register. So those are all done with the same plates, pretty much. This is also a really cool technique, which is a trace monotype. And I wanted to do something with the gyroscope, so I took photos of the gyroscope with a shadow, which starts to get really cool. And then a dry point, you put the ink down on the plate. I'm going very fast, but you know, just to give you an idea. Put the ink down on the plate, and it can be water-based or the Akua or oil-based so that it stays kind of damp. Then you take a piece of paper, put that down on top, and draw on the back, okay? Lift it off, and the pressure from where the drawing is will transfer the ink, okay? So you have a positive and you have a negative, or a negative and a positive. So you have this, which has also got the line pulled off, and this, which has got the line. And so these are a positive and negative, and I did that in three colors or 4 colors, I think probably 3, red, yellow, and blue, and layered them because you can register them. So those are the positive and the negative of that. And I did cheat a little bit. I drew on top of it with the water-based crayons again because it needed something. So I don't make a rule that I can't draw or paint on top of things. So I figure, why would you do that? So I always say there's no monotype police. There's nobody who's going to tell you that you can't do that kind of thing. So.
When you're doing that, and you have a collage of your colors in the background,
Mm-hmm.
how do you get the light and the top, this one here that you were talking about, that you have the light colors on? Light.
Which one? This one?
So,
Well,
so how about the circle light? How do you make that lighter if you've already done a backdrop?
well, I may have used I may have used the crayons on that with the yellow, but I think the paper is white here. So maybe I was drawing, I was just, again, looking at the photo because it's coming from a photo and just 8 by 10, so I can put things underneath things and that kind of thing. So I really think about the photo as well, So, okay, so we can just go around a little more. So you got the Taj Mahal painting, and I thought it'd be fun. So I, coming here, I didn't have stretched painting, so I rolled that and then stretched it. So now can we go into this area here? We've got one more area. Oh, I guess there's the travelers. But this will be it. This will be our final area. Then I'll let you go. Well, we have some fun things here. So we have the boat people. And so you kind of saw that image. And these were the solar plates. So these were the solar plates that came after the horseshoe crab images. And there were four solar plates. The boatman, the biggest you can do a solar plate is 32 by 42. Okay, and you can shoot that, but you need a special light. Okay, because you do the other ones small. But when you get that big, you need a very high light. And so Dan Weldon is the person that has that. So I would have to go out to the Hamptons to do that. That's kind of a trip because the ferries are tricky, so you have to get a car. So New York, that's tricky. And so 32 by 42, so the top, and then the bottom, and then this is one plate, 32 by 42, and the guide. So I decided the boatman, the couple, and the guide from the painting idea from the photo of the Taj Mahal. And so we shot all four plates, and actually I drew these on frosted mylar, large sheets of frosted mylar, with anything that was black and white that I could draw with. Touche, black paint, no white paint, black paint, crayons, anything that I could use on those mylars. So they're very beautiful, the mylars themselves. So we shot that through the drawing and also the aquatint screen. Of course, these people had a lot of rectangle space left behind. So I figured, what should I put behind there? And of course, COVID then hit, and I decided all the animals, this will be just like a Noah's Ark, we'll just take all the animals with me. And so I filled the rectangle with all the animals. And so then I realized I needed a boat. So I had some large Somerset paper. So I put that together and looked up, boats that would be kind of like boats that would be, need a stick like that. And so I painted the boat. So, and then at home I have these big boulders that I made out of material, kind of stuffed, but I couldn't bring a boulder. But I brought this. This is the sea, a little bit of the water. Okay, so just a suggestion. And now we have kind of another boat. And then what I wanted to do was project a video, and I was originally thinking over here, but we had some problems with the light and the definition, and then the projector was right in the middle. I didn't think that worked, so then we decided to try it here. So during the day, we still don't have quite enough light with this, projector. At home, I've gotten one that will throw across the space of June's, a newer one, but I had another one that did that. So you saw that projection idea. So that was kind of, but we decided to go for it. So I think if we turn the lights off, we may see that, but anyway, so that's the story with that. And then this was kind of another spin-off of the idea of the boat people. And I had extra pieces of the couple, and I thought, oh, this would be so much fun to do something where they were kind of in these temple-like trees, because I'd been doing some images that had this gates from Bhopal that had the lives of Buddha. So I thought these trees, and these are all carborundum. So you can paint with a carborundum. That's a class we're going to do very simply onto like any acetate with the carborundum in medium. And carborundum is a type of grit, like what's used in sandpaper, same stuff that is in sandpaper. And so you just let it dry, and then you can put the ink on and then wipe it, and the sandpaper-like texture will hold the ink. And then you can run that through the press. So that's one technique. And I love tinting the paper as well, because you get a lot of more mileage out of, tinted paper where it's uneven. And of course, then this was another technique, which was using large sheets of mylar and cutting them kind of in the tree shapes, and then inking the surface, and then inking the other piece, and putting that piece on top of the other piece. So you could get a two-color print with that. So and I love the blending. And so I did a whole bunch of them, and then I decided, well, there's the forest. So we'll just make a forest out of that, and they can be made anyway. And of course then I thought, what about all these animals? So I cut them all out, and then, so those are all the animals that were there. And there's Hudson, my cat. So, and see, he's up there too. So. He passed away, so it's kind of a memorial of him. Yeah. So one day, during COVID, I remember I was working on this, and he came one day, and he just laid down in the studio, just like that, like he was the king of the studio. They do that, Sometimes they lay like that when tigers, when they're on a tree, they lay like that so that they can balance themselves. That's what I read, National Geographic. So, and then these are elephant fish, puffer fish, any kind of armadillo, things that I could think of. Yeah?
Those creatures.
Mm-hmm.
Two of them.
Which ones? Those are elephant fish. I used to have an aquarium. They're brackish water, salt water, so I had a brackish water tank, because saltwater tank is a little bit more complicated. And there are fish that are elephant fish. They're also knife fish. So the knife fish look like knife. No, they're not electric fish. Huh?
They're electro.
The eels, but no, not the elephant.
No.
They are?
Anyway.
I didn't know that, because I had them.
It is true.
I had them, actually. I did?
Well, they're different varieties.
There must be, because these were brackish water fish. So, and then they also have a knife fish, which is like a fish kind of shaped like a knife, but the bottom moves like this, really beautifully. And then just to complete everything, there's a couple more monotypes here, again during the COVID. And those, I love this watercolor wash, so I'm also showing you guys that. It's a speedball block printing ink, which curdles beautifully, and then the drawing on top. So I got those to print by hand. Those are all printed by hand, so I was real proud of that, because that's hard to get that to work. I use Reeves Lightweight for printing by hand. Works a little bit better. But actually, here I was at upstate, and I didn't have the press, and I wanted to finish this project, and so I did print with the Reeves BFK, and arch cover. I figured out how to print by hand with that. And then I also love making scarves and things. Like I have friends that want something, so I love making these scarves. And I get those at a place called Dharma. You get online, and you can get all sorts of ready-made things. You can get pajamas and nice silk things. And so they're already whip-stitched in all different materials. So I have about 10 of them here.
So do you have a vertical steamer or horizontal? Do you have a vertical steamer or
A
horizontal?
horizontal steamer, but what do you mean?
How do you heat? Usually you have to steam them too. Do you have the dye hold?
No, well, I have a painting die that, you can paint. So I have a way I can put them onto plastic and paint. And then I can also print through the press. with that. So the exquisite ocean soup, now you know what that is, the gyroscope and the armadillo. And then I made this jacket with the same idea. Silver lining, but it's not as pretty in the silver, but yeah. So I can print through the press with oil-based ink, and it works out really nicely. So, and so I have one more, another jacket to wear tomorrow for the opening. So if you want to see it, you have to come to the opening.
That's right.
So I think it's the one that it's the one I did after this one. This one doesn't quite fit so well, but anyway. But the other one has a little more of a open, you know, whoop, like that.
Things are getting crazy up here.
And also they are reversible, which is kind of fun. I don't know. I had to line it anyway, so I figured. But anyway.
Yeah, I came down and she was ironing those scarves.
Yeah, I'm very into ironing. Yeah, I'm very into ironing. Ironing is fun.
Yeah.
So
that I think that you got it. I mean,
can we ask questions?
sure,
real quick?
of course, yes.
I just want to ask, because this is, just the thematicness and how everything feels like it really belongs together, and you took this trip to India and then you waited over 20 years to make this artwork, right? So was this just always percolating in your brain, I've got to get to that India show, how, when you came to this point, how long did it take you to make all these pieces, knowing that you were, you took the trip and then you waited a long time,
Well,
right?
it's the time lag. I mean,
Sure.
the thing is, if you look at the website, there's the Malay colony, there's the Japan book, there's this, there's that. And so as I'm living, I'm also working. So it's kind of like a time lag. I can't work about what's in the present. I have to work about what has happened before.
Sure.
And so I'm doing, like, now I'm here, right? So maybe I'll do something
show.
about Oregon or about this trip or something. So, I'm photographing, I'm experiencing, so I'm archiving all of that, but at the same time, I'm working on something else. So there's always that, you know what I mean? So it's kind of like, it's like a delay reaction, I guess, And then if I'm going to work on something, I really have to think about it, because once I get into it, it's going to be there, you know what I mean? It's going to be, usually this group of work takes about 4 years. So meanwhile, you're doing the other things and experiencing other things. So it is an interesting time for me, because I feel like I'm sort of done with this group, and now I'm here. And also I seem to tend to like other countries, and it's kind of interesting to start thinking about this country, I guess when I'm going to other countries, it's so amazing, the different culture. But, this landscape here and all of the heritage of our country is also something for me to think about too. So I don't know, maybe I'm coming home now, I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's all kind of a time warp, which is kind of fun,
Alabama's like a whole nother country.
Huh?
You said you go to Alabama, it's like a whole nother
Right,
country.
well, also there's an issue of New York. I mean, I should really be thinking about, I don't really take that many pictures of New York. And New York has got so much,
But it's like
to
right
offer.
here, yeah.
But because it's right, it's because it's in
Yeah.
my face, I guess, that it's not, I love it visually too. So, I mean, there's the museums, but even New York itself and the history of New York and the architecture, and New York State and upstate. So, anyway, so it's a good question though, yeah. But it does feel good that India, I think, is done, now. So
Yeah.
that's kind of interesting, so there'll be
Breathe.
something else.
Yeah.
I don't know, any other questions or anything? And also we have food, right, to eat, things to enjoy. Yeah,
So cute.
yeah,
Yep.
okay.
Thank you, Lisa.
Well, thank you, good to see you. Good to meet you all, yeah.